Everybody, and welcome to a nice snowy Sunday. Today we welcome Ned Harper back, and Ned will be with us through March 26th. So he's here for a 4-week block, but if you're doing the counting of your calendar, you say, wait, that's not right. And that's because the weekend of the ski trip, there is no church service. And these announcements will come out. So that's March 12th. March 12th. What should be the Sunday? Somebody give me.
I think it's March 12th.
So March 12th, there is no church service because of the ski trip. There will be announcements, and there'll be a link to a previous service if people will want to be able to watch from home. But Ned will be with us for 4 out of the next 5 Sundays, while Adam does his second block of sabbatical. So we welcome Ned, and I just ask if there are any announcements from the congregation.
Good morning. The annual canvass, as you know, started on at the church annual meeting, and there were a variety of ways in which you could make a pledge. You could put in a card, you could send an email to pledge@theeliotchurch.org, and if you did so, you would then get an email back that would say thank you for your pledge. And that worked great, and many people did that, only for some reason the emails that said to pledge@theeliotchurch didn't get where they were supposed to go. So Jackie now belatedly knows that those pledges have been made, and will be acknowledging those pledges soon. And thank you, and I, without knowing much of the detail, do know that there were many pledges made, and it looked like there will be relatively few calls for Rosemary and me to make this follow-up, so thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to the Elliott Church of Natick. I'm Ned Parker. I feel like every time I'm here, I feel like I should have a blackboard behind me so I can put my name up in big block letters in chalk. Anybody remember those days? It's good to be back with you. Thank you for the announcements. Thank you for the welcome. Today we'll be beginning a series of reflection on the idea of perspective and shifting perspective. And we will use both Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, excerpts from it. We're not going to read the whole book over the next 5 weeks. Excerpts from that book, as well as Jesus' parables, to think about how we might change our perspective about different things happening in the world. So I invite you into a time of reflection as we begin to consider this idea of perspective. Welcome again. first hymn will be number 126 in the gray hymnal, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. And as we sing, I invite you to focus in on the end of the third verse as we think about this idea of perspective. Help us bind ourselves in union. Help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above. Please rise in body or spirit. Together in our covenant, which you can find in your bulletin, in the love of truth and the Spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and service of all.
From To Kill a Mockingbird. It's actually the beginning of the book. The movie, by the way, is available on many streaming services for $3.99, and I think I'll make that as my assignment. When he was nearly 13, my brother Jim got his arm badly broken at the elbow. When it healed, Jim's fears of never being able to play football were assuaged. He was seldom self-conscious about his injury. His left arm was somewhat shorter than his right, When he stood or walked, the back of his hand was at right angles to the body, his thumb parallel to his thigh. He couldn't have cared less, so long as he could pass and punt. When enough years had gone by to enable us to look back on them, we sometimes discussed the events leading to the accident. I maintain that the Yule started it all, but Jem, who was 4 years my senior, said it started long before that. He said it began the summer Dill came to us, when Dill first gave us the idea of making Boo Radley come out of his house. I said if he wanted to take a broad view of the thing, it really began with Andrew Jackson. If General Jackson hadn't run the creeks up the creek, Simon Finch would never have paddled up the Alabama. And where would we be if he hadn't? We were far too old to settle an argument with a fist fight, so we consulted Atticus. Our father said we were both right.
As we join our hearts in prayer, I wonder if there are any joys or concerns you would like to share with your community this morning. Any joys or concerns? Okay. Let us be in a time of prayer. You who go by many names, we gather in a spirit of all-encompassing love. We gather in a spirit recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all people. Some of us arrive with concerns, pain, lifting up loved ones in our hearts who are suffering, those who continue to struggle with long COVID, and those families impacted by loss. We also lift up and name the cares of the world. War and environmental catastrophe, and those concerns that impact us in that place of our heart, still too deep for words, still not ready to be spoken aloud. We also come with joy in our hearts, joy for the fact that we were all able to make it here safely, despite my own fishtail on I-94. Joy that we have this opportunity to gather together as a community. And joy for the year ahead, as spring, despite the snow, begins to peek out. And for those times that we don't know what to say, for those times that we don't yet have words, we also give thanks for the prayer that our brother Jesus taught us to say, that we say together now. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. It's now time for our morning offering, a free gift or a free church. Please rise in body or spirit for our offertory hymn. We give thanks for many gifts given for this one church community. You may be seated. Thank you.
Our second reading is from the book of Matthew 13, verses 10 through 17, the purpose of parables. Then the disciples came and asked him, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" He answered, "To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For to those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away. The reason I speak to them in parables is that seeing they do not perceive, and hearing they do not listen, nor do they understand. With them indeed is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah that says, 'You will indeed listen but never understand, and you will indeed look but never perceive. For this people's heart has grown dull, and their ears are hard of hearing. And they have shut their eyes so that they might not look with their eyes, and listen with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn, or I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. Truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it."
Thank you. Our responsive reading comes from the back of your gray hymnal. The Journey of Love, number 610. Where in our hearts is that burning of desire?
It is true that we are made of dust, and the world is also made of dust, but the dust has no life.
Whence comes that drive in us?
We look to the starry sky, and love storms in our hearts.
Whence comes that storm?
The journey of love is a very long journey.
But sometimes with a sigh, you can cross that vast desert.
Search and search again without losing hope.
You may find sometime a treasure on your way.
My heart and my eyes are all devoted to vision.
Thank you. Our second hymn is number 318, also in your gray hymnal, We Would Be One. As I said earlier, it's good to be back with you for today and in the coming weeks. I confess that I have actually been on medical leave for the past month, so I'm feeling a little rusty. Some of you may remember the last time I was here, I was limping a little bit. It turns out that there was a pinched nerve in my spine, so I have been having that taken care of. So I apologize if I seem a little rusty, but I'll get back in a groove quickly, I promise. Today we begin a journey together, interrupted only, I understand, by a ski trip. This is the first Sunday of Lent and the first Sunday of a series that I'm calling Shifting Perspectives Along the Journey. And as guidebooks and companions on this journey, we'll be using both examples of Jesus' parables, as I said, as well as excerpts from Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. If you haven't read To Kill a Mockingbird, or it's been a while since you have, I encourage you to read it cover to cover the moment you get home, or you can watch the movie, or you can get an Audible credit and listen to it. Any one of the three is fine. Cover to cover. Reading the Bible cover to cover, I'll leave that decision up to you. You can make that choice on your own. Now, Lent, parables, Harper Lee's book mean that we have a lot of moving parts today and over the coming weeks. And my hope for today is threefold. One, I offer an introduction to this series. We're often running on that one. Two, that this introduction also be a standalone homily, just in case you decide to walk out the door and never come back. And three, to tie up all of these pieces in a nice little bow so that we move into the coming weeks together as a community, not leaving anyone stranded along the way. Does that sound like a challenge? Challenge accepted. I said it for myself, so challenge accepted. The idea of Lent has taken a lot of twists and turns over the history of the Christian tradition. People take time for reflection during Lent. People join Jesus on a journey through the wilderness. Sometimes people give up things for Lent. Maybe that's some of you. And on that final note about giving up things for Lent, fun fact, just in case you didn't know, there are 40 days of Lent, but there are 46 days in Lent. Why is that? I'm so glad I asked. Because Sundays don't count in Lent. Every Sunday is considered a mini Easter. So if indeed you have given something up for Lent, you can still indulge on Sundays. Just to put it out there. But it's the second note about Lent that should call us to attention, because the journey through the wilderness afforded Jesus time for reflection, time to gain perspective. And we, as a community, as human beings, as a nation, and as global citizens, are in the midst of and moving deeper into uncertain times, an uncertain wilderness. We don't yet know how the pandemic has really affected us long term. Not only physically for those with long COVID, but also emotionally and mentally as individuals in the society. I recently read an article about infants born during the pandemic who aren't being socialized or haven't been socialized. So there is a lot still to learn about that ongoing impact. We don't yet know if this time of racial reckoning will actually prompt the wake-up call that we so desperately need, or if instead it will become one more flash of wokeness before it is silenced by power and privilege again. We don't yet know what this community will look like in 10 years, but we can see the church and faith communities writ large in the midst of labor pains, birthing something new. We don't yet know if this climate crisis will ever adequately be addressed, or if it's too late for it to be addressed, or if the wild and abnormal patterns unfolding in nature are no longer abnormal at all, but instead just a foretaste of a new normal, where catastrophe and cataclysmic shifts will irreparably devastate this planet we call home. Now, yes, this does sound like a whole lot of doom and gloom. I apologize. The prophecy according to Eeyore, if you will. But it is for these reasons that focusing on the shifting nature of perspective is integral. It's integral to how we successfully move forward into uncertainty. Uncertainty is made easier if we allow ourselves, if we give ourselves permission to be uncertain. It helps if we give one another permission to step out of our own shoes and into the shoes of others in order to gain critical perspective that might not be our own. And to gain empathy. Empathy for each other, for the other, and for the earth. Perspective. When my mother was 7 months pregnant with me, my dad's best friend Jim called to say that his wife Arlene had just given birth to their first child, Danica. My dad was on his office phone upstairs in the house. My mom was on the phone downstairs in the kitchen. And after all of the congratulations and celebration, my mom asked Jim how long Arlene had been in labor. 13 hours was Jim's reply. My mom, again 7 months pregnant with me, asked some other questions, and the three of them talked for a while, and then Jim got off the phone to be with Arlene to hold their new baby, Danica. My parents hung up their phones, still attached to the walls in those days, and my dad went downstairs to the kitchen where my mom was still seated on a stool. They were quiet for a minute. And then my dad said, 13 hours. Poor Jim. I'll just let you imagine how the rest of that conversation unfolded. Let's just say that my dad's utterance was a perilous perspective on his part. We seek perspective that is not only less perilous, but perspective that allows us to move forward together into the uncertainty ahead with compassion, with respect, with some amount of urgency and agency. This morning's reading from To Kill a Mockingbird was the first 3 paragraphs of the book. And in these initial paragraphs, we can already see that Harper Lee is setting up a storyline that will shift and be shifted by perspective. The book opens years after the events of the main story in the book itself unfold, with the primary character Scout disagreeing with her brother Jem about what led to Jem's broken arm when they were children. When they go to their father Atticus to ask which of their stories is truth, Atticus responds to them, according to Scout's, "We were both right." Could have also said, "We were both wrong." We'll read in the coming weeks, as the storyline goes back in time to trace their childhood, Atticus says to Scout throughout the entire book, you never know what another person is going through until you stand in their shoes and see the world through their eyes. Scout learns about the plight of others by taking Atticus at his word, thereby developing empathy and some modicum of understanding of people she had previously judged and even looked down on. And this is a master form of storytelling from Harper Lee. Instead of the author explaining details in the form of asides or soliloquies along the way, or characters offering explanations to people who would already understand the nature of the events, the reader actually learns as Scout learns. The reader has epiphanies as Scout has epiphanies. It's not forced, but instead builds organically as Scout learns what it means to view the world by standing in the shoes of those who are different than her. Truths that she had taken for granted and never questioned are stripped bare, and more expansive and meaningful truths eventually take their place. Another way to put it is that the reader stands in Scout's shoes. In the passage from Matthew, one of the only times when Jesus talks about the nature of parables without speaking in parables, Jesus explains that parables are all about seeing, and for some, about being seen. And one of the things we learn about parables along the way is that the characters in them are relatable. That's why parables are so effective. However, depending on where we're at in life's journey, we may find ourselves relating to different characters within those parables. For instance, in the parable of the prodigal child, the archetypal analysis might reveal that the parent represents God and that the child who takes the money and runs is a representation of all of us, that we will always be welcomed home, even if we have left. But in relational terms, we've all been the parent in some way. We've all been the prodigal in some way. We've all been, though many of us hesitate to admit it, we've all been the haughty older sibling at the end who says, I've done all the right things. Where is my reward? I recycle and I compost, and I've read all of the books on racism. I know how it works. Where is my reward? And when we catch ourselves asking those questions, sometimes we realize we're approaching the issues from the wrong perspective. The perspective of self-gratification instead of the betterment of society and the world. So if we take time to combine Scout standing in the shoes of the other and the various relational attachments to characters in the parables, we might find ourselves able to commune with each other and the world in new and life-changing, life-giving ways. If we but pause and just listen, and not only listen, but hear, we might find ways of deepening relationships. And in this journey, charter courses through these uncertain times together and never, never alone. At least, that's my perspective. I welcome yours in the coming weeks. Our closing hymn is For the Beauty of the Earth in your gray hymnal, number 21.
Thank
inspiration comes from that fourth verse. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and miles, we lift our gentle hymn of praise. Go in peace, brothers and sisters.